Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and I feel like I already butchered the intro today, so whatever. I've tried it like 10 times, so I'm just gonna stick with that one. But anyways, today we're gonna be going through just a little TikTok, a little YouTube short that I found about how you can't be a vegan, you know, how you can never be 100% vegan. And a little disclaimer, I'm not a vegan. These people are also not vegans. I was vegan or plant-based, I guess you could argue, for about 7 years, from like 2016 to 2023. But I'm no longer rocking that edge, unfortunately. I have to say it was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know a lot of people have vegan horror stories about being vegan and how bad it was and all that. I personally had the opposite experience. I thought being vegan was great. So yeah, anyways. But outside of that, I just want to go through this video because, you know, in spite of me not being a vegan and not even really being like 100% plant-based anymore, I still actually do advocate for people to go vegan and try it out. And if they want to do it for environmental or, more importantly, ethical purposes. I do think a lot of people should give it a go because I think there's some benefits to being vegan, but outside of that, you know, if you're not vegan, no shade. Today, we're going to be going through this little TikTok/YouTube short, you know, going off about how, you know, it's basically impossible to be vegan. And I'm going to preface this by saying they're not wrong, but they are kind of missing, I think, a little bit of a point here made when it comes to, like, what vegans are and what they do.
It's impossible to be a vegan. Yep, you heard me. It is literally impossible to be 100% vegan. And here's a very short list of things that contain animal byproducts. Ready, set, go. Gelatin, flavorings, dyes.
She goes on and she names a bunch more stuff, but here's one she didn't name. I used to work in a greenhouse, and for all your organic produce, did you know it has to be grown in a substrate, a soil, a rock wall, something. And to be considered organic, you cannot use a fertilizer. So what do they use to grow it? They use shrimp meal. They use shrimp meal, a byproduct of the shrimp industry, to grow your organic tomatoes, strawberries. Anything grown organically in a greenhouse is grown with animal byproduct.
Your plants aren't vegan, so neither are you.
So yeah, that's the little video that I found online, and I have to say, like, I do not disagree with these people, but I think that we're missing the point of what veganism actually is meant to do. You know, I don't hear a lot of vegans these days acting like, oh, I have never hurt any animals through my existence as a vegan. Most of them are aware that maybe the sugar they use is processed with bone char, or there's some level of animal harm that can come from specific farming practices with, you know, grains, with, you know, whatever kind of food you want to say, whether it's vegan food or not. You know, there is some level of harm. Even when you go and get conventionally grown lettuce from the store, it's sprayed with pesticides and it kills bugs. And, you know, you're inherently killing the bugs, right? You're eating that and there's bugs that have died as a result of you trying to get that delicious sum of foliage for your consumption. But the one thing is, vegans don't try to just say they're not going to hurt any animals. They just try within, you know, as much as is a reasonable means to avoid unnecessary animal suffering and harm. Usually through, like, not eating animal products, of course, not eating dairy, eggs, not eating seafood. You know, there's also environmental arguments that they make. But with a lot of the byproducts this girl mentions, a lot of vegans are aware that gelatin is from animal byproducts. And that most vegans will not touch gelatin because, you know, it's boiled down parts of animals. Also with dyes, people are aware that there can be, you know, bug blood or whatever in them. I think it's bug blood or something like that. Things like down, leather, very obvious ones. You know, your sugar might be processed with bone char. Again, this is just some of the things. So that could be a big argument for, like, oh, well, anything with sugar in it isn't technically vegan because it could be processed with this thing. Then there's another argument for animal testing on specific products. So, you know, bypassing medications and stuff like that, because I don't think people should skip out on medications, whether they use animal testing or human-controlled trials or whatever. Technically, you know, there's a level of consideration that goes into you just being able to live your life, whether you're vegan or not, without, you know, being crazy about it. So, you know, not getting the medication you need to live because you're worried it's going to kill some animals, when in reality, you're going to die without the medication. But with other things, it's like with makeup, shampoos, conditioners, beauty products, a lot of those things you can have as labeled cruelty-free that don't use animal testing, that can be vegan products. A lot of brands do this now because there is, in general, not just for vegans, but in general, an ethical concern for animal testing. If you looked into animal testing, I think a lot of people are really against it, and it's understandable because it's kind of crazy and unnecessary to be testing certain things on animals. A lot of people are against animal testing with beauty products, so a lot of people want cruelty-free brands in general, whether they're vegan or not. Now, again, these people are arguing for things like byproducts. Byproducts come predominantly from you processing animals in the first place. It's just because those products are there, so they're accessible, they're cheap, you can already use them. We may as well use the whole animal, not just eat the meat and then throw the rest in the garbage, right? Like, we want to process everything that we've got. Animal byproducts, we tend to have a lot more surplus of because, we already process excessive sums of meat for the masses so that they can consume it because they aren't vegan. So there would be an argument for actually being able to downscale in general just out of these byproducts, just overall deaths from animals. So I just want to say that because I do not disagree with these people. There's tons of animal byproducts and things that you might not even know about, but it doesn't really take away from the fact that, yeah, you might not be 100% vegan. It is indeed impossible to avoid all animal cruelty all the time as a human living in a developed society, or even just walking around on the street, because if you step on an ant, then you're not technically 100% vegan. But, the argument for trying to avoid as much unnecessary animal suffering as possible by not directly consuming animals, I think is a very reasonable thing for people to do. I have met some vegans that have crazy purity mindsets where they think that if they do everything by the book and perfectly, and they do crazy stuff to avoid specific byproducts, that they're gonna be 100% vegan. But outside of the few people I've met that say that, most vegans are very aware, and I know most vegans are very aware, and they don't really shy away from this, that there is almost no chance that you can be 100% pure and cruelty-free as a human living on Earth. The only way to be 100% vegan would be to not live. Literally, not to live, which I don't recommend. So I feel like the argument there is a little bit silly. Now, getting on to the other clip that I wanted to go through.
But here's one she didn't name. I used to work in a greenhouse, and for all your organic produce, did you know it has to be grown in a substrate, a soil, a rock wall, something. And to be considered organic, you cannot use a fertilizer. So what do they use to grow it? They use shrimp meal.
This is another thing I want to mention is, vegan and organic do not have to come together. A lot of vegans are considered more health conscious individuals and might favor organic farming practices for whatever reason, whether they think it's because it's healthier or it's just something that people are into a lot nowadays. But the thing I have to mention is, yeah, organic farming is not considered the best option if you're trying to operate sustainably, because usually, again, it does use things like, bone meal, shrimp, whatever. And also, usually, those bugs that are still going to be trying to attack the foliage, the vegetables, the organic produce, you still have to use pesticides on them. You're still going to have to use pesticides on that crop. And typically, you're going to be using more pesticides because those pesticides aren't considered conventional and as effective. So you might be spraying them more. That's what I've read. I don't know what the industry is like now, but in general, organic produce is not the best option, I guess, for a vegan. And also, biodynamic farming, 100% not vegan, not even close if you look into that. But, again, this is not really the point. It's not to say that all vegans are going to eat organic and all organic food is bought by vegans. I am not vegan, and tons of other people aren't vegan, and we all buy organic produce here and there. Sometimes it's cheaper than the conventional thing, which is hilarious. Ever go to Trader Joe's? That's right. Sometimes they have some really good sales on organic produce. But anyways, I just want to mention this, my people, because I do not disagree with these people. I just think they're kind of looking in the wrong direction. Or maybe we're kind of like avoiding an obvious thing here where it's like, yeah, you're not going to kill 0 animals or ever contribute to animal harm, but at the same time, you directly not eating animals will obviously kill less animals in the long run. So technically, as much as we want to argue against veganism, eating a more vegan diet or eating less animals will result in less animal deaths because we aren't eating them. So I'm not trying to like belittle these people because their arguments are very valid, especially if they run into vegans who are saying otherwise and that, you know, oh, I can be 100% vegan, because no matter how vegan you are, you're still going to contribute to some level of animal cruelty or animal death. But I think the argument is still that vegans will kill less animals in the long run. Just due to the fact that they aren't consuming them. So that's one thing I want to mention. And again, the best definition of veganism you're probably going to get is from the Vegan Society. And it's a little bit of a long definition. And again, like, it's not to say that, you know, vegans are pure and cruelty-free and all that stuff. But I'm just saying this is the best definition we have, is veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, and any other purpose, and by extension promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partly from animals. So even the definition that most vegans will jump to from the Vegan Society, which I say most vegans jump to this because all the vegans that I ran into were the ones pushing me to go vegan with these definitions. That is like the most reasonable way you can define veganism, and it says, again, as is reasonable and practicable. Nobody's here to say that it's going to be that you'll never hurt another animal again. I think that's a very silly thing if somebody does say it. I do also kind of want to go into the comments a little bit from this video, just because I think, again, people have like a little bit of a perception of vegans, understandably so, due to the vegan drama of the early 2016s to 2019s and how much of a nightmare that was. If you were there, you would know all about it, but even if you aren't, don't worry, I was, and I've got stories to tell. But anyways, let's just go into some of these comments as well. I'm sorry the comments are a little bit cut off, but I'm gonna read them off, so whatever. Anyways, so the top comment is also, blood and bone is also used to fertilize organic crops. Also, animal or poultry manure are also used. That's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into farming that is technically not considered vegan. Sourcing that, though, and sourcing all of the things that aren't vegan and trying to avoid them is probably damn near impossible. So, you know, if you are vegan, I feel like it's pretty forgiving if you're still, I don't know, having produce that is farmed by any means, maybe not biodynamically, but outside of that, I don't know, there's only so much you can do, you know? This person says, the first lady prepared an argument, but the second lady went for the jugular. Somebody else says, thank you. No matter how hard you try, vegan food will always need the existence of animals to grow. If you care about the environment and animal cruelty, focus on sustainability. Focusing on sustainability is a good means for anybody. Somebody else commented, I love this. I'm tired of the moral high roaders that want to feel superior to others because of what they eat. My suggestion, shut the fuck up and eat what you want. Now, I actually agree. The one thing that made me really hate veganism was the vegans. Vegans are really fucking annoying, and even I think I'm fucking annoying with this video. But the thing I have to mention is, like, I get why vegans are so annoying, because they actually do, a lot of them do, ethically believe that people who aren't vegan are directly murdering animals. I get a lot of people don't like to kind of like be called animal murderers if they eat chicken or fish, or they eat a steak twice a week or something like that. You know, it's completely understandable why there'd be that big, you know, like, what are you talking about ism? You want me to just eat lettuce, or you're gonna call me, like, basically, like, the worst things possible, like a murderer of the innocent? Yeah, that's kind of messed up. So I completely understand why people do not like how vegans approach them, especially when a lot of vegans can be really annoying, do weird, crazy protests, dress up like cows, pour fake blood on themselves, go and bother you at McDonald's. I think that kind of activism isn't really activism, it's just being annoying, and it's not going to really stop somebody from buying a Big Mac. So I agree. Also, though, the whole diet superiority, I have seen outside of vegans. I think there's this level of privilege that some people have where they think like, oh, I eat all organic, I eat all vegan, I eat all paleo, I eat all keto, I don't eat the garbage that you call food because I know health, okay? I know what's better. So I understand a lot of people do that. I've seen vegans do it, I've seen people on specific diets do it, I've seen rich people do it. You know, I didn't grow up particularly well off, so when I see people acting certain ways with like superiority and being able to spend like $500 at Whole Foods, you know, every week, it's crazy. I do think there are specific people out there that will just act this way, whether they're vegan or not. But yeah, in general, I've seen a lot of really annoying vegans. They want you to get into their ethical lifestyle. They think that the diet's always going to be healthier. And, you know, whether it is or it isn't, I'm sure we have arguments all around. I don't know. I feel like this is just a really interesting conversation to have. There are more comments, and I really like talking about veganism and also anti-veganism because that's its own thing. And oh my god, you know, there was that video series I made on the channel breaking down the carnivores. Not just the carnivore movement where we're eating raw meat, but the carnivore movement that also has some psychos out there eating, you know, rotten meat that is covered in maggots and insanity. A rarity, I know, but something that does exist. So yeah, I just like talking about this kind of stuff, and I want to know your guys' opinion. Personally, I think be vegan or don't be vegan. I don't really care. But I do believe that most vegans are decently well educated and know that they can't, like, magically stop all animal, you know, exploitation or deaths through their diets. And also, I do believe that most vegans probably kill less animals than people who eat meat. So, yeah, that's just my opinion. But either way, I just wanted to talk about this today because I thought it was interesting. So, yeah, that's the video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think about vegans? What do you think about this, that, the other, and your mother? And yeah, that's it. So I hope y'all enjoyed my people, and I'll see you all next time. It has been lovely. Slater!